Okay, so you know how everyone's always talking about how different childhood is these days? Well, we've got some really interesting stuff to dig into today, looking at this whole shift from, kids playing outside to being glued to screens.
Yeah.
And we really want to get into what this all means for kids growing up right now.
Right.
And if you're the kind of person who wants to get up to speed fast on these big trends, well, this deep dive is for you because we're going to highlight some of the key changes and really look at some ways forward.
Yeah, it's a huge shift, and what's really interesting is the difference between the experiences that a lot of adults had growing up and what we're seeing now.
Yeah, let's paint a picture of what the source material calls those good old days.
Right.
Running around climbing trees, maybe a scraped knee here and there. But importantly, lots of imaginative play, making up games, coming up with stories. It's almost quaint now.
Yeah.
But it was a childhood that had so much unstructured freedom.
Absolutely. And I think if we connect that back to the bigger picture, that kind of play wasn't just fun and games. It was actually really important for development.
Right.
Kids were learning to solve problems by dealing with real challenges.
Exactly.
They were building social skills by interacting with other kids.
Right.
And they were even learning resilience, by bouncing back from those little setbacks.
Yeah, picking themselves up, dusting themselves off.
Exactly.
So let's contrast that with what the source material calls the phone-based childhood.
Right.
And it talks about things like endless scrolling. That constant comparison you see on social media, which can lead to kids feeling inadequate.
Right.
And then that drive to be validated online, through likes and followers.
Yeah, it's a totally different world.
It sounds like it.
It is, and it kind of makes us ask, what does connection really mean? Because although digital platforms offer a way to interact socially, the source material emphasizes how these virtual engagements often take the place of deeper face-to-face connections.
Yeah.
The focus shifts to curating an online image instead of building real relationships.
And the source material actually points to some pretty worrying consequences.
Yeah.
Especially the rise in anxiety and depression among teen girls. And it connects that to the pressure of trying to live up to these often unrealistic ideals that they see online.
It's a powerful connection.
It is.
And one of the key insights here, which is attributed to Jonathan Haidt, is that the issue isn't just the phone itself.
Right.
But it's what it's replaced, and that is that traditional, unsupervised, sometimes even boring childhood.
Right.
Boredom, the source suggests, is actually a breeding ground for imagination and creativity.
Yeah, because when kids aren't constantly being stimulated by screens, they actually have to come up with their own ways to entertain themselves. They have to solve their own little problems. And they develop that inner drive.
Exactly.
And the source argues that this shift away from real play is actually contributing to a decline in kids' confidence, their creativity, even their overall happiness.
Absolutely. Think about how much learning and development happens through hands-on exploration. Through trying things out, making mistakes in the real world. You have a childhood with a lot less of that experience. It's going to have impact.
So what does the source material offer us?
Well, it suggests things like delaying kids get smartphones. Actively encouraging outdoor play and real-life friendships, and even allowing kids to experience boredom.
Yeah.
That last one is so counterintuitive.
I know, in our world where everything's always on.
Exactly. But it's so important. Allowing for downtime and a lack of structured activity gives kids space to develop that inner motivation and to learn to direct themselves.
So ultimately, the source is calling for more connection and more attention.
Right.
Real human interaction instead of an overload of digital content.
Absolutely.
So it seems like the core message from this deep dive into the source material is that prioritizing real-world experiences over screen time is absolutely crucial for supporting kids' emotional and mental well-being in the long run. It's about finding a healthier balance, not necessarily cutting out digital stuff completely.
Exactly.
So I think this leads to a really important question for everyone listening.
Yeah.
How do these ideas resonate with what you've seen or experienced?
Right.
And what small intentional steps could you take to help foster a more balanced and fulfilling childhood in today's digital world?
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
A lot to consider.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
It was fun.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.